Right. Okay. So a couple of little, a couple of little postscripts from Olenu from last week. Somebody just asked, why do we say Baruch Hu either before or after Olenu? In other words, right at the end of the of davening. Partly it's a bookend. We say Baruch Hu at the beginning. Remember, Psukei de Zimra is really the introduction to Baruch Hu. The main prayers are Shema and Shemona Esra. Between Baruch Hu and Shema is the brachas of Shema. After Shema, up till Gaal Yisrael, is the brachas after Shema, leading into the Shemona Esra. Shemona Esra is the main Tefilah. Tachnun is keeping us there, our own personal prayers. Right, then we've got Ashrei U'Vol, which is the extra bit of learning. We spoke about that with the Kadosh, 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 and the translation, and then Aleinu. And at the end of all that, Baruch Hu again. Now, what is Baruch Hu? Baruch Hu is, come on, everybody. It's a command, or Baruch Hu, let us bless.
I thought we just said it because of the latecomers.
Exactly that. Exactly
because you don't stay out when you're late.
Correct. Exactly that. Baruch Hu is, you say it at the end for the latecomers, because, and that's why you say it before Aleinu, really. You should say it before Aleinu. Because what is Aleinu? We did it last week.
Affirmation.
It's an affirmation. It's really a concentrated version of everything we've done so far. So it makes sense.
It's a welcoming prayer.
It's a what?
A welcoming prayer.
Well, we spoke about it last week. It's actually not the end of our prayers, is it? It's the beginning of our day, remember? It's what we take with us into the day. So it makes sense, if we're going to say for the latecomers, to bookend it before Aleinu. I don't know why it will be said after Aleinu, because there's nothing else after Aleinu other than Kaddish, is there?
Yes.
No, not in Nusach Sfard.
Sounds like what we do.
We've already said all
Baruch Hu
that.
after Aleinu, then
Right. Well, we say Baruch Hu before Aleinu, which makes sense. Yes, Frank.
It's actually, it sounds like a contradiction in calling it a bookend, because the bookend means, right, we're finished, get on with whatever else we want to do. Whereas we said that from Ashrei U'Vol is the period where we're moving from one into day. It's that progression. And surely it would make more sense if it's a bookend to say Baruch Hu after Tachanun, which finishes the Amidah, and then we've got that progression. Into
Frank wants to say Baruch Hu after Tachanun and before Ashrei U'Vol. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think if you're going to bookend it, it's right at the end.
The bookend is finality.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're saying, right, we're now going to go on the rest of it. We can forget about everything else now because we're going on. Whereas the idea was to say U'Vol and Aleinu, to take it with us into the rest of the day.
Okay.
But if it's the latecomers who are still faffing around,
the
later the better.
Maybe.
Final.
Okay, let's have a look at Shir Shel Yom today. What did I do with that bag?
Behind the cable.
Yes, I'm not going anywhere. Right, here we go. So, Shir Shel Yom, which means, of course,
Song of the day.
Song of the day. Right. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is, where do we say the Shir Shel Yom? And we say it at the end or near the end, okay? Depending on whether you're Nusach Sfard, Nusach Ashkenaz. Nusach Ashkenaz, it's the last thing after Aleinu, and in Nusach Sfard, it is before Aleinu. But it's towards the end. And how does it begin? Hayom Yom, whatever it is, B'Shabbat. Why?
To remind you which day it is.
Okay, so and Barbara says because we're always looking forward to Shabbat. That is true. There is an opinion, and this opinion is held by Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, who used to say something before he used to say Shir Shel Yom, which we don't say, and as far as I know, only he said it, but it tells us what we're actually doing. And he used to say, before saying Shir Shel Yom, Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho, which means remember the Shabbos day. And that is what you're doing when you say Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbat. Because you could just say Hayom Yom Rishon. So Rav Shlomo Zalman says the whole point of saying Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbat is in fulfillment, or partial fulfillment, of constantly remembering the Sabbath day, which I think is rather a nice idea, actually. Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbat, same idea really.
It's not saying this is the first day of the week, using the word Shabbat
First day of the
as
Sabbath.
a week.
Well, I mean, it's the same root, isn't it?
I'm
Shavua,
saying, so maybe
because it comes from Sheva, because
the
that's
translation in the sickness is first day of the week.
but that's not true. How do you,
First day of the
how do you
Sabbath.
say week in Hebrew? Shavua, and what's the root of that?
Sheva.
With an ayin. And what's the root of Shabbat? What's all that about?
With a top.
With a taf, lashevet, to sit, right? To stop, to sit, to dwell. Different word. It just happens to have a shin and a vet in
translation
it.
here is the same as well, actually.
Yeah, it's not correct.
No.
It's not correct. It's not accurate. I mean, I'm not saying it's not correct because the meaning is correct, but it's not an accurate translation. The accurate translation is Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbat. Today is the first day to Shabbat or of Shabbat or
Towards Shabbat.
towards Shabbat.
From
Yeah.
Shabbat.
No,
We're not saying
towards.
Le Shabbat,
I think
Johnny.
towards as opposed to from, because we don't
Shabbat.
count from Shabbat. We're counting towards the next
Yeah.
Shabbat.
The
I
first
remember
day of Shabbos is what it says.
No, so it should be
of
It's the
Shabbos.
first day.
The first day of Shabbos.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's Shabbat? What's the doing now?
You can't leave
First day of
Shabbat
the Sabbath.
because you can't just say the first day. The first day of what?
Yes,
It
no, we
doesn't
have to
make
say
sense in
first day of
English either.
something. No, because
So it's
in
Shabbat.
English, of course, the days of the week have names, so we know what they're referring to, right? So you're right. You can't leave. You have to have something. Hayom Yom Rishon Shel what?
And,
Shel Shavua. Okay.
and
Or
also,
Shabbat.
Shabbat finishes the week. So it's the first day towards Shabbat.
Yes, that's right. We just
Shabbat.
said that.
It's the same you count Shemitah. It's Shana Shlishit Shemitah.
Yes, to the third towards that. That's right. So it's looking at
You're not saying Le Shabbat, Johnny.
Le Shabbat would be 4 or 2. If you wanted to be completely accurate, you probably want to say Hayom Yom Rishon El Shabbat.
El Shabbat, yeah.
But I think B'Shabbat, the implication is that it's part of. Okay, I think you said of Shabbat, didn't you, Warren?
Yes.
Of Shabbat. So the first day of Shabbat. In other words, all the other days of the week actually belong to Shabbat. Everything else, like you just said.
No, it's also a possessive. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
could be a
belongs to
possessive.
Shabbat.
Yeah.
Everything that we do in the week belongs to Shabbat. I
Yeah.
remember I had lots of aunts, because great aunts. My grandmother, both my grandmothers were one of 10. So I had lots and lots of. I had lots and lots of aunts, and I had a favourite one. Auntie Katie was my favourite one. She was a really sweet lady, and she used to say, "Wish you a good Shabbos from Tuesday onwards." Right?
From Wednesday.
Yeah, if she saw you on a Tuesday, it was already good Shabbos. Right?
It's like
She wasn't a particularly, religious lady. I mean, she was a religious lady. She wasn't a particularly sort of, holy sort of person that she was always thinking. That's how they were taught. That's how it was. Shabbos was everything, right? It still is, really. It still is, right? For people who celebrate Shabbat in the way we celebrate Shabbat, everything is geared up to Shabbat, right? It's very well known that people who used to get something nice, they were given a piece of fruit or what have you. You keep it for Shabbat, yeah. And that's the idea here. And Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was, by saying Zochar es Yom HaShabbos, before he said this, he's actually enhancing that whole idea that every day belongs to Shabbat. Every day is not a day. It's only the first day towards Shabbat, because Shabbat is so fundamental to everything that we do. Now,
Art Scroll says this is in contrast to the non-Jewish custom of naming the days of the week after gods.
well, that's right. That's right. There's a problem, of course, with the
Sunday and Monday.
secular names. I don't know about in any other language, but in English, the names of the week are the names of gods. Sunday is the god of the sun. Monday is the god of the moon. I don't know what the others are, but anyway, they are.
Tuesday is the pancakes day.
Tuesday's pancake day. Yeah. Yes, Hannah.
I think it also goes back
in
to
February, it's Tuesday
creation.
This is important. Go on, Hannah.
I don't know if it's important.
It is important. Yeah, it is important.
It goes back to creation as to the purpose of creation, and it's if creation was to create the world and to have Shabbat, yeah, then the whole of creation goes to Shabbat.
Okay, let's talk about creation because it is important in this context. How, if you go back and read the story of creation, it was almost like Hannah has just said, a progression, right? You start with tohu vavohu, you start with emptiness and void, and then you start with light, darkness, separation between the light and the darkness, water, separation between the water and the land. And as we get through the week of creation, it becomes more sophisticated and more specific until we get to Yom HaShishi. And what's the last thing that's created before Shabbat?
Man.
Is man. And the last thing that is created on Yom HaShishi is not man, it is, after that. Shabbat is created on Yom HaShishi, right? Shabbat doesn't just happen. And that's something which I think is really interesting. Shabbat is not the absence of work. Okay, Kadosh Baruch Hu finished all that work, and how do we end that up? Okay, so the creation, the last thing that was created was actually Shabbat. Shabbat, it's a bit like light, and it's a bit like the darkness in the plague that we just had, right? Normal darkness is what? The absence of light. The darkness in the plagues was actually a positive physical darkness, something that was created. It was not.
Feel it. You can feel
It wasn't the absence, just the absence of light. Shabbat is not the absence of work. It's not the absence of malacha. It is a positive thing that was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we feel it, don't we? We know that. Those of us that keep Shabbat know it's not just not working, right? It's something special today, something else, it's something extra. And that's really the idea of the creation. Now, the reason I said it was important when Hannah said about creation, and we're going to come to it in a few minutes, there's just one thing I want to talk about first before we go into it, that I'm going to ask you why each Shir Shel Yom is different. Why is there a Shir Shel Yom for Yom Rishon? Why is there a Shir Shel Yom for Yom Sheni, which is different? Why isn't it just the same one?
To remember the answers, because they're dedicated mostly to something, to somebody. It's a kind of, how should I say, a reminder
Of what?
of those Lamnatzer Mizmor David.
No, it's not a reminder of the people. It is a reminder. It's actually a reminder of each day of creation. And we'll have a look. We'll go into it in a few minutes. We'll have a look at each of the
Korach, for instance.
Yeah, just have that. That's the beginning of the Mizmor, but it's a question of what's in it. Okay. Now, I'm not sure that this really works, what I'm going to tell you now, but I read it and I looked at it and I thought, it's a bit of a dray, but I'll tell you anyway. See what you think. Have a look at Shir Shel Yom for Yom Rishon. Begins Le David Mizmor, which means a song for David. So the actual Mizmor begins with the word Hashem. Yeah, Lashem. Yeah. So on day one, word one is Hashem's name. Okay. Have a look at Yom Sheni. Shir Mizmor Livnei Korach. That's what it is. Gadol Hashem Umuhlal Mod. Day 2, the second word is Hashem. Let's look at day 3. Don't quite work here now. This is where it's sort of. It didn't, this is why I wasn't. I was excited when I got to Monday and Tuesday. But when it comes to Tuesday, Mizmor LaAsaf Elohim Nitzav Ba'adat El. So it's really 1 and 4. 4 take away 1, 3. No, just think. Right?
It's hyphenated.
Yes, there is. Yeah, I thought that, but it's not hyphenated in my one actually. But when I looked in the singers, it's actually hyphenated. So okay, it's a bit of a dray, but we've got that. Have a look at Yom Revi'i. El Nekamot Adonai El.
There's 1.
El.
There's 1.
1 what?
Because Ale is
It's the first word.
Okay, but it's also the 4th word.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
Once it's spin, it's
What
spin.
can I
You
do
know?
for? I never make this up. If I don't, I don't know. I read it somewhere.
Wednesday is another countdown towards Shabbat.
I read it somewhere. Yom Chamishi 1. Lamnatzech halakitit la'asaf. That's the introduction. Harninu lelohim uzeinu hariu lelohei. That one works. And Yom Shishi, that also works. Hashem Malach Geyot Lavesh Hashem. So apart from Tuesday, it's not bad. Okay.
But Tuesday is Kitot.
Okay. Apart from Tuesday, it's a nice idea. Okay, it's a nice idea. So now, what do we say at the beginning? Hayom Yom Rishon LeShabbat b'Shabbat Shebo Hayu Halviyim Omrim Beveit Hamikdash. Translate, please. Shebo.
That day, on it,
i.e., on that day. Hayu Halaviyim Omrim.
the Levite would say.
The Levites used to say, or would say, Beveit Hamikdash.
In the temple.
In the temple. The following thing. Right? So, is it true?
I wasn't there.
Is it true? Who's a Levi here?
Me.
Where are you?
Here he is.
You're a Levi. You're a Levi.
Yeah.
Okay, now, were your ancestors singing on Yom Rishon, the David Mizmor Hashem Haaretz Umlo'ah?
No, because because David was before the temple. Yeah, it could be chronologically.
David wrote Tehillim.
Yeah.
David predates the temple.
Yeah, predates the
So, the answer is possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you would think, wouldn't you, because that's what it says at the beginning, that each of the Mizmorim were the ones that were sung in the temple by the Leviim on that particular day. Because that's what it says. Shabo ha'yu alvim omrim b'beit hamikdash. And it's sort of right, but not quite. It's a bit like Tuesday. Okay, and I'm going to show you. What it is. So, first thing is, how do we know that there was a separate mizmor for each day, and there was a separate mizmor for special days? For example,
Does the Gemara say so?
yes, the Gemara does say so, and I'm
Well,
going
that's
to.
how we know.
And I'm going to show you. Okay, so there is a remnant of it. What do we say on Rosh Chodesh? Attached, as it were.
Baruch Nafshi.
Yes, Baruch Nafshi. Okay, we say Baruch Nafshi. Now, bear in mind that on Rosh Chodesh we say Baruch Nafshi with the Shir Shel Yom. Okay. Now, I'm going to take you to the Gemara for the moment.
If we're lucky without a Kaddish in between.
If you're lucky without a Kaddish, yes. Depends where you go. Right, there's a Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. And it goes like this. It's on Daf Lamed Amud Beit, if anybody wants to look it up later. It goes like this. Barishona, in the beginning. Hayu bet din mekablin edut hachodesh kol hayom. In the early days, the Bet Din in the Sanhedrin there would accept testimony for
the new moon.
The new moon. In other words, somebody would come and say, we saw the new moon, okay, all day long. What does that mean? It means on the day that they were meant to come, they could right to the end of the day they could come. Okay, and it has to be on usually the 30th day of the month, right? So because somebody on the 29th day has seen the new moon. Okay, even if the witnesses came close to evening, they would accept them, do their test, examine the witnesses, and would sanctify the new moon on the basis of their testimony. It happened once, on the 30th day of the month of Elul. Now, what's that mean?
Somebody made a mistake.
Potentially Rosh Hashanah.
They made a mistake.
Potentially Rosh Hashanah. They had to sanctify this day as Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, Shehu Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah, it's Rosh Hashanah. Nishtahu ha'edim milavo. The witnesses delayed coming. They were late in coming. V'nitkalkalu halaviyim bashir. And the Levites messed up the song. In other words, they did the wrong song because they'd already done the song of the day, right? The witnesses, by the time they got to the witnesses, they were so late that the Leviim had already sung the day's song, the Shir Shel Yom. Okay, they used to do it at the time where they used to do the wine libation. Achrei hakorban hatamid shel bein ha'arbaim. They used to do the Shir Shel Yom. When did the Leviim do the Shir Shel Yom? Not after Shacharis. They did it after Mincha. After they brought the korban tamid of the afternoon. Remember, there's two korbanot that were done every day: morning tamid and the afternoon tamid. The Shir Shel Yom was sung by the Leviim after the wine libation that came after the Mincha Korban Tamid. Okay?
They did Mincha Gdolah. They did it with Mincha Gdolah.
Well, they would have done it at Mincha Gdolah, that's true. But it certainly wouldn't have been right close to the end of the day. Okay, so they would do it then. Shabiyom Chol Omrim Mizmor Kavua La'oto Yom Bashavua. On a weekday, you did the mizmor that was fixed for that day. Ve'ilu b'Rosh Hashanah omrim mizmor acher. But on Rosh Hashanah, they did a different one, right? A special one. Umachmat ichurim shel ha'idim, and because of the delay of the witnesses coming, lo haya yadua b'shat hakrava im hayom cholhu. They didn't know at the time they brought that korban and it was time to say the Mizmor Shir, whether it was a weekday or Shema Rosh Hashanah. Maybe it's Rosh Hashanah. We know it's the 30th day of the month.
That's why we have 2 days.
It is partly why we have 2 days on Rosh Hashanah.
Very
yes.
serious problem.
Because maybe they'll come later and then they'll make it Rosh Chodesh. So what happened? We can't have that. And so it seems that if you do the wrong Shir for the day, that's a problem. That seems to be a big problem from this Mishnah, right? So what? You do the wrong Shir, so do the other one as well. No, apparently it's important. Seems to be important that there is a fixed one for each day.
Presumably just because it was a Rosh Hashanah, it's just a special day, whereas you wouldn't have this problem.
Well, you do actually have the problem because I've also have the problem for Rosh Chodesh because there's a special one for Rosh Chodesh, but you'll see in a minute that Rosh Chodesh is slightly different.
But you can say Tehillim any time, any day.
You can say Tehillim, yeah, but it seems that the Leviim was singing, this singing of the Leviim wasn't, it seems from this Mishnah, that it has some very special importance. It's not just, stammer song that is nice to listen to and there was musical instruments and all that stuff. It's not just stammer song. Seems from the Mishnah, I mean, I agree, that's what, so what? So he said some Tehillim, big deal. but it seems it is a big deal. You've got to have the right one for the right date. So it would seem from this Mishnah. So what did they do? Hitkinu chachamim. The sages made a takana, a ruling. Shahayu ba'oto dor. The chachamim who were in that generation made a ruling. Shelo yehu bet din mekablin edot hachodesh ela ad hamincha. You can only accept testimony on the new moon until mincha, and that would presumably be mincha gdol. Okay. Ad hakravata tamid shel ben arbaim, until they brought the korban tamid in the afternoon. Once they brought it, too late. Even if the Eidim come, now that is fascinating in itself. Let's just stop there for a minute, because what does that mean?
Rosh Hashanah's put off by a day.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah's put off by a day, which means what? Everything else is put off by a day.
The whole year.
Now, yeah, and there's
But it can't always be, because you can't have Rosh Chodesh on certain
could,
days.
but those
On
days you
Rosh
could.
Hashanah.
those
days
days
you
you could. It was only when Hillel made his calendar.
Okay,
right?
okay.
So that was in the 4th century.
Okay.
So one sec, because this is an important point here. Because what does this show us? This shows us something very important, and there is a scriptural proof for this. Who fixes the Yomim Tovim?
We do.
Human beings, not Hashem.
Lo b'shamayim.
Lo b'shamayim, but there's a better one there. Eilem Odei Hashem. Asher Tikra'u Otam. What does that mean?
That you should.
You will fix.
Tikra'u.
That
You will call them out.
Yeah.
Okay. Torah tells us very clearly we're in charge. Okay. Lo b'shamayim is another example. Yeah. The Torah is not in Shamayim. Yeah. With that famous Mishnah with the Tanur Shel Achnai. Yes. Remember that famous. Yeah. Baskol and all that stuff. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says here, oh, they got the better of me. It's a very, very strange story. The bottom line is, we fix Yomim Tovim. Now, the question is, do we also fix Shabbat? That's not quite so clear. That's not quite so clear. Remember we talked, I can't remember exactly what context, we talked about the Samoa Islands, who changed they changed their date line. We spoke about this in one of the Shiur. What happened was, not that long ago, within the last 10 or 15 years, this particular island, which is close to the international date line, right? They decided that they wanted to move to the other date line, cross over, because of business reasons. They were having more business with that lot than that lot. So what happened was, they went to bed on a Friday night. And when they woke up in the morning, it was Sunday. Yeah.
Good.
Now, if there was some, if there was the Jew, what about the Jews of that island? Let's say, I don't know if there were any, but let's say there were. Right?
Solomon Islands?
Samoan Islands, I think it was. Yeah. So the Jews over there.
That's a big problem.
What's going to happen? Because either they've missed the Shabbat, or forevermore Shabbat's going to be Sunday. Right? It's a massive problem.
No, they should make Sunday the Shabbos.
But wait,
first Sunday,
but
and then just the days during the week don't make that much difference, and then have a proper Shabbos.
Then you have a proper Shabbos the next day.
Johnny,
Have a 6-day week.
Okay, so right. So you well, one sec.
There weren't any Jews on the island, because if there would have been Jews on the island, they would have made sure that it wasn't over Shabbat.
It makes no difference
Johnny,
what day it was.
make any difference.
One second. It does make a difference. It makes a massive difference. Barbara and
we have our
Warren.
own calendars, though.
Barbara and Warren are saying the same thing. We don't have our own calendars for the days of the week, Philip. We have a different lunar calendar for the months. We don't have a different day of the week.
Okay, but if you change it one day, then you can
okay. So the question is, if you're in that island and you go to bed on Friday night, right, and you wake up, it's normally Shabbat morning, right?
You still keep Shabbos, even though.
But now it's Sunday. So Warren's suggestion is you keep Shabbos and then you have a 6-day week and you keep Shabbos again, which proves what?
That we fix
Shabbos. Because if you were going to say, this is the philosophical question, really. Is Shabbat every 7th day from the 7th day of creation? Right? You take the 7th day of creation, which was Shabbat, and every multiple of 7 days then is Shabbat.
What did they
That's
do?
one sec. That's one philosophy. The other philosophy is that Shabbat is when we human beings say it is Shabbat and keep Shabbat.
It wouldn't work. Then you could say,
Well,
we're having
yeah,
a
it could be
Tuesday
any
next week.
No.
Shemitah,
Who?
Chachamim. They've been counting 7 ever since
Yeah.
the temple.
Yeah, but I think they've lost it. But yeah, that's the
They've lost
idea.
it, so
That's the idea. So, but of course, Shemitah now is only Dirabanan.
no,
because we
but,
don't have a
but the
Beit
years are
HaMikdash.
still counted. We still
We
count.
don't have a
Still have it
Yovel
on the
because we've
7th
lost
year.
it. Huh?
We still have it on the
We
7th
still have it on the
year.
7th year, but whether it is really the 7th year, I
We
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know whether Shabbat is really every 7th day from creation.
But isn't there a thing about if you're in the desert and you don't know what day of the week it is, and you have to work out what day is Shabbat, and it may not be Shabbat.
Correct, but but that's a b'diavad situation, isn't it? That's a sort of, if you don't know, you don't know. You've got to do something. L'chatchila, what would we say? I would say that Shabbat is when we make it Shabbat. Now, that's not to say that you can choose when you make Shabbat, right? You can make it on Wednesday if you want. No, but what we're saying is that the Shabbat is Shabbat because of how we behave on that Shabbat. Okay, one second. Let's just finish this thought process.
Zochar v'shamar, isn't it, John?
Yes, exactly. Shamar v'zochar. Okay, you have to keep the Shabbat and you have to remember the Shabbat. We're the ones that make it into Shabbat. Our behavior on Shabbat makes it into Shabbat. And again, not just the lack of malacha. The lack of malacha is shamor. Okay, shamor. You know where shamor v'zachor comes from, right? Shamor was said in one of the 10 commandments, and zachor in the other one. Which was which?
First commandment, Shamor.
Yitro
Was
is
the first
Zachor.
commandment.
Yitro is zachor, or you're
only
saying
next
Yitro is
week.
shamor? Which?
Hanan is Shabbat.
Yidra is Zachor.
Oh, thank you, Philip. Yes.
Promise.
Yeah, no, he's right. This is Zachor is
And
Yitro.
Hanan is
Shamor.
Shamor.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the two aspects of Shabbat, Shamor is to guard it. In other words, don't do the things you shouldn't do. Zachor is to remember it by doing the things that you should do. Oneg Shabbat, the positive things about Shabbat. So Shabbat is what we make of it. Okay, so that was the thing that I mean, we've just seen this amazing young girl who came out from the hostages, Agam Berger, who did her very utmost to keep Shabbat whilst in captivity.
Yeah.
Refused to cook for them on Shabbat and various other things. I'm sure you've all
Queen
read it.
Esther also. Didn't Queen Esther have? I heard that in one of these Shiurim. She had 7 maids, and each day she had a different maid, so that she would know when the 7th one was.
No,
that would
possibly.
be-
It's not.
I heard that
It's
on
not
one of those.
Mefurash in the Megillah. That could be probably a midrash.
I heard.
So yes, go on, Hannah. What you were going to say?
Jealous.
I understand and accept that we make Shabbat. Yeah, even in our conversation of making Shabbat. Yeah, but you open up a whole can of worms with if we can determine which day it is, because the Ravam also made Shabbat on Sunday. The Muslims do it on Friday. The early Christians decided it's Sunday. If you say that we can change theoretically that we can change the day, then you're opening up.
I think you're quoting me out of context there. I think you are not quite understanding what I'm saying.
Maybe.
What I'm saying is not that you can change it if you want. No, you can't change it if you want. If you are forced into a situation, b'diavad, like the Samoan people, right? You've got no choice. Or like the person in the desert that Jeff's talking about, where you have no choice. The question is this: if you say that Shabbat is every 7th day from the 7th day of creation, and let's say the Samoans now, let's say we were in sync, and now the Samoans are out of sync, aren't they? So are you telling me that every Sunday they're Mechalel Shabbos, because actually Sunday is Shabbos. That's what you're saying if you say that, because for them, the seventh day from the day of creation, for them is a Sunday.
Well, the international dateline puts everybody out anyway.
Exactly, that's the whole point I'm making. So in a situation, in a situation where we don't know when is the seventh day, clearly there is a convention that we know when is Shabbat, and that is Shabbat. But from the Samoans, exactly what you suggested, they keep the Shabbat on that Sunday because that's clearly potentially a Shabbat, and then you have a 6-day week, and then after that,
they're already halfway through it.
Anyway. Right. So okay, so they're already halfway through. But the next point is they don't keep Shabbat every Sunday. They keep Shabbat on a Shabbat. They go out of sync, which proves. Because if it wasn't a proof, they would have to then say, so what if the Goyim call it Sunday? It's Shabbat for you. You can call it Shabbat. They can call it what they want, but it's Shabbat. But that's not what we said. We do. So the point is here that, and I think it's an important point, because it fits in with the Moadim, that we are the ones that make the Shabbat. We are the ones that make the Moadim, even if it's not right, because this Mishnah teaches us quite clearly. We put off Rosh Hashanah. Why we think about this? Why did they make this rule, which could potentially make Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and everything else on the wrong day? Why? In case they said the wrong Shir Shel Yom. Terrible thing. What's worse, to keep the wrong day of Rosh Hashanah or to say the wrong Shir Shel Yom? I would have said.
But doesn't it show also that the spirit of the Yom Tov
That's exactly the
is
point.
more important
That
than
is exactly the point. The spirit of the Yom Tov is what we make it, and what the Beis Din make it, and what we make it. And I think that's an important point for us to remember.
So back in those days, when the witnesses came, they came just before mincha this time.
Right.
What happened to Shacharis and Musaf on Rosh Hashanah first day?
I don't know. I guess they didn't do it. You'd like that, wouldn't you? But I don't know.
I'm thinking, what about all the preparation? When are they doing all the cooking?
Okay, let's carry on in the Mishnah. Carry on in the Mishnah. Elad mincha, right? Ibo eidim mina mincha ulamala. So what happens if they came after mincha on the 30th day of the month? Lo hayu makablim otam b'oto yom. They didn't accept them on that day, sent them away. V'nimtza chodesh elul mu'ubar. It would work out that the Elul would have 30 days, and the 31st day would be the 1st of Tishrei instead of the 30th day. Okay? And that day, the 30th day, which, inverted commas, really is Rosh Hashanah, is a weekday. Rosh Hashanah lemachrato, and Rosh Hashanah is the next day. B'yom 31 on the 31st day. And even though the witnesses did not come before mincha, hayunogim oto hayom. Kodesh כבכל שנה. שהרי מתחילת ליל 30 של אלול היו נוהגים בין קדושת ראש השנה שלא לעשות בממלכה. There's your answer. The Mishnah tells us that even though they weren't making Rosh Hashanah till the 31st, they weren't to know, were they, the night before, that they weren't, the witnesses weren't going to come. So from the night before, when, as it were, Yom Tov would come in, they kept it Kodesh, just in case, right?
On the 30th day.
On the 30th day.
So what? So then they celebrated 2 days of Rosh Hashanah?
3 days.
Maybe they'll come in the morning before Mincha and they'll make it Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, hayugomrim et hayom b'kedusha. And so since they'd started that day with Kedusha, they kept the whole day of Kodesh, even though it wasn't Rosh Hashanah. They didn't come till afterwards. Shekach tiknu chachamim. That's how the chachamim made it. Kedei shelo yavo lezalzel b'yom zeh l'shana haba l'sot mamracha ulo basof yavo edim. Okay, so what did that cause? What did they have in the end in those days?
2 days.
2 days of Rosh Hashanah.
Which we have now.
Yeah, no, but they had one in Elul, possibly.
Okay, they did have one in Elul, yeah, but they still had 2 days Kedusha. Okay, right.
We're not commanded to keep 2 days Rosh Hashanah, Johnny.
Sorry.
No.
Are we not commanded to keep 2 days Rosh Hashanah?
No. We're commanded 1 day of Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how you get to that. Now, Mi shecharaf Beit HaMikdash. Once the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, ubitel tam takana shel otam chachamim, they abandoned that takana because it doesn't apply anymore because there's no Beit Din to
enforce it.
To enforce the 30 days business. Why are they not worried? Because the Leviim are not singing. No Beis HaMikdash, so they didn't need to do that takana anymore, right? The whole takana was to prevent the Leviim singing the wrong song. That's the weird thing about this, and it just shows you how important the Shir Shel Yom must have been, right? Again, is it a bit like Aleinu? Are we gabbling it off?
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting this is at the level of Aleinu, but the Mishnah is telling us how important it was. Okay. Hitkin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai undid that takana and reinstituted Shahayu Mekablin Eidot HaChodesh Kol Hayom. So after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, they could accept the Eidot all day long because there was no worry about the Shir Shel Yom. And it's the Shir Shel Yom which drove this rather strange takana, which could mean that effectively you're doing Rosh Hashanah on the wrong day. It's really quite, when you stop and think about it, it's really quite remarkable.
So they didn't, sorry.
Go on, after you.
So they didn't say Shir Shel Yom once the temple was destroyed. So
No Levium, no temple.
We're saying now that.
And why do we all say it? Why
Why
is
do we
the
all
art-
say
Okay.
it? Yeah.
What are we look what we're saying?
It's been reinstated.
Shebo Hayu Halavim. It's a reminder. The Leviim used to say this in the Beit HaMikdash. We are saying it as a zecher. In the same way, by the way, when the Kohanim duchen, what do we say after Yivarech Hashem v'Yishmerecha?
Oh no.
No. When the Kohanim duchen, what do we say?
Amen.
Amen. And when the Chazan says it,
We don't.
Was anything?
yes, we do.
Oh, you mean when there's no Kohanim?
When there's no Kohanim and the Chazan says it. Can you hear it? So why? Why Amen when the Kohanim
One is
say
an
it?
actual blessing and one is a remez.
Correct. One is a blessing, and you say
Morning.
amen for that blessing,
One is just a
and the
reminder.
other
What
is
if
the
what was
Chazan.
the
What
next
does
time?
it
Let
say?
me make sure I'm not. You can't hear me.
Let's just go and look what the Chazan actually says when he says that Elokeinu v'Elokeinu v'Teinu. Where is it? Here we go. Elokeinu v'Elokeinu v'Teinu. God, Baruchenu, bless us, Babracha Hamashuleshet, the threefold bracha.
Yeah.
Which one? Batorah, which is in the Torah. Which one? Haktuva al Yidei Moshe Avdecha, which was written by Moshe. Ha'amura, which was said mipi Aaron uvanav, which was said from the mouth of Aaron and his sons. Kohanim am kadoshecha, the Kohanim, your holy people. Ka'amor, as was said.
Yeah.
Yivarech Hashem v'Yishmerecha. So it's the Chazan is invoking the bracha that the Duchaners would have said had they been there. When they're there, we can say Amen because it's their bracha. Chazan can't give us a bracha. Kota Baruch Hu B'nai Yisrael. Only the Kohanim can give that bracha. So the Chazan can't. So he's not giving us the bracha. So we can't say Amen. So what do we say? Can you hear it, son? May it be your will.
I was right.
No, you weren't.
You was right.
You're right. You gave me the right answer to the wrong question.
Yeah.
So we say, "Can you hear it, son? May it be your will. May what be your will? That bracha that the Kohanim would have given us would be fulfilled." But it's not an amen. That's the difference between amen, Ken, you, son. This is the same thing here. When the Leviim were in it, they were saying it. They were saying it in the Beit HaMikdash. Once the Beit HaMikdash is gone, all it is a zeicher. It's a zeicher l'churban. It's a bit like your sandwich on Seder night. Zeicher l'mikdash kehillel. This is what Hillel did in the Beit HaMikdash. This is all the same thing. This is what the Leviim did in the Beit HaMikdash every day. Okay, so that's the Mishnah. Now, the Gemara asks an obvious question here. Ma kilkul kilkalu alavim bashir. What's the big deal?
Did they mess up?
What did they mess up? How did they mess it up? What does it mean?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You mentioned before about even if the Eidim haven't come on the 30th day, they say Tefilah at night and in the morning of Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, why didn't does the Gemara anywhere there mention kilkalu at Tefilah?
No. Would not. No. It's a good question, but I'm not sure that they had. Not sure that they had the tefillah as we know them now.
But they
must have done something.
According to what you said, they obviously had a different tefillah for Rosh Hashanah.
Well, remember the tefillah that we have is a zeicher to the avodah.
Yeah.
The question is not really of the tefillah. The question really goes on the korbanot.
But they didn't do Tefilah then, did they?
No, they did korbanot.
Right.
So the question remains.
The Gemara says that they changed the tefillah for Arvit and for Shacharit in the morning.
It doesn't say that quite. What it says, it doesn't quite say that. It says Noagin Oto Hayom Kodesh. They made the day holy. In other words, I think what it means is they didn't do malachas.
Right.
Not sure what it doesn't say how they davened. It's a good question though. I'll look into it. Let's just have a look at this because this is about the Shir Shel Yom, which we're meant to be learning. What's the time? Oh gosh, look at the time. Okay, Ma kilkul avim b'shir. So how did they mess up when this situation arisen on the 30th day? Comes to mincha time. This is before the takana, right? They don't know what to say because they don't know whether it's Monday or it's Rosh Hashanah. So what are their options? They've got 3 options, haven't they? 4 options I can think of.
Do one, do the other, do both, or do none?
Yes, do one, do the other, do none, or do both. Well, that's basically what the Gemara is asking us. Ma kilkulu. How did they mess up? What did they do? And then it says, it asks the question, Hacha tirgamu. This is how they did it. Shelo amru shira kol ikar. They didn't do it at all. They're waiting to see, right? They didn't do it at all. Right, but Tamid Shel Ben Arbai. The fish lo yadu eza shir lomar. They didn't know which one to say.
Option's choice.
Im shir shel yom tov shema sofa edim lavo. Maybe the witnesses will come, so maybe I have to do yom tov one. Or shema lo yavo edim. Maybe they won't come. And then I've got to say shir shel chol. I've got to say the weekday one. Umi safek lo amri shir aklal. And so out of a doubt, they didn't do anything. Now they clearly were not from Manchester. These because had they been from Manchester, it would have been dead obvious. You have to do both, right? You know,
Make a matic on it. If it was this, then that. If it was that, then this.
Was there a minimum number of witnesses that were needed?
2. The Ilu Rabbi Zeira, is that Rabbi Zeira says different. He says no. Sha'omru shira shel chol im tamid shel ben Abraham. No. They did the Tamid Shel Ben Arban, they did the afternoon offering, and then nobody's come by then. Well, hard luck, I'm going to do the one for the weekday. It's weekdays, there's nobody come, it's weekday. That makes more sense to me. They're definitely not coming by now. They'd have been here by now if they were coming. That's Rabbi Zeira says. And in the end they did come. And it was Rosh Hashanah, V'nitza, and it worked out. Shamru Shir Shel Chol b'Yom Tov. They said a weekday Shir on Yom Tov. Now, I know it's not the same thing, but it reminds me of
Disappeared, Faye. Johnny's disappeared. Can't hear you. You're muted, Faye. Bye bye.
You want to call him and let him know he's off? I'm sure he knows.
There's only 5 minutes left. I'll ask him on Shabbat.
Okay.
You go and water your flowers behind you, the lovely sunflowers.
Yeah, that happens to be a background, but where I am right now is just as awesome.
It's gorgeous.
I don't know how to take off the background, but I am in a beautiful background. You know how to do it?
Hello.
Wait, we're gonna take off the background. 1 second. Aha. Okay. So I'm in the
Right.
kitchen of the Maui kosher farm with, so what? Of this. Okay, this is supposed to.
Okay. All right, I'm going then. There's no one here.
No, I'm gonna close it.
Recording. I'm going to end it, Faye.
Okay.
Nice seeing you.
Okay.
Have
You're
a
gonna
good
end
week.
it. Okay. You're a co. Okay. All right. We got it.
Have a
This
good
is the
week.
learning.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye, Johnny. Send my love.
Thank you. Bye-bye, and to you.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.